We humans have begun to play God, breeding animals to create all new hybrids. If the Jurassic Park movies have taught us anything, it's that such antics may go horribly wrong. But for now, let's just enjoy looking at cute animals and hope they don't rebel or attack. These are amazing hybrid animals that actually exist. Number 15. The Zonkey. And what better place to start than with probably the most famous hybrid animal on Earth, the Zonkey. Or depending on who you ask, the Zedonk. Yes, the Zedonk. I will continue to insist that it's an accurate and valid name for this animal. The Zonkey is a hybrid of, you guessed it, a zebra and a donkey, making it one of the purest kinds of hybrid zebroid you can hope to find in the world. While many animal experts around the world do their best to create all sorts of fascinating hybrid animals, it tends to only work if the animals are relatively similar, like the zebra and the donkey. Because they're so closely related, the hybridization process is much easier than if you tried to cross a donkey with a whale. I mean, how would you even do that? The Zonkey is, as you'd expect, incredibly rare, but so cute to look at. As we'll come to understand, you have to be pretty nuts to come up with the idea of creating animal hybrids, but thankfully, we're not short on crazy people. The Zonkey, or Zedonk please, is a relatively simple hybrid between two genetically similar animals. But where is my donkey whale? Like this video, smash the subscribe button, and click the notification bell right now, or Slenderman will come from under your bed when you're sleeping. Now it's time for the juicy topic. While the other hybrid animals we'll be showing you in this photo are 100% real, this one is more of a theory, hence why we have highlighted it as our very special juicy topic today. This image is an artist's recreation of a hybrid between a tiger and a black panther, an animal that many people claim does exist, though there is no actual proof as of yet. The theory is that they live and hide in mountain caves, where there is little to no human population, hence not being seen often. But others think that these theorizers have just let their imaginations run a little too wild. What do you think? Are these animal hybrids real, and if so, has the artist done a good job of capturing what they actually look like? Are they out there roaming our lands? The hybrid we mean, not the artists. Remember to comment down below with the hashtag #JuicyTopic, and let us know your opinion in relation to what we just showed on screen. And now, to the next topic. Number 14. Savannah cat. Generally, there are two kinds of cats in the world: big, wild cats and small domestic cats. The big cats want to kill you, while the small cats generally couldn't give a rat's ass what you do.
Every bit as domestic as your normal domestic cat.
But, believe it or not, there is a cat that blends these two worlds into one unusual hybrid. In 1986, some brave person decided to crossbreed an African wildcat with a domestic cat, creating this unique new species, with the first kitten named Savannah. Well, you can work out how the species got its name. The Savannah is a curious and adventurous cat, and has often been compared to dogs? Yes, the cat's curious and active personality has often been likened to their domestic opposites, even replicating the kind of loyalty and bonding with their owners that dogs are famous for. It's hard to imagine that people would be happy to have a half-wild cat walking around in their living room, but the Savannah is a hugely popular breed with both cat and dog owners. It combines the best of both into one unique and wonderful package. Well, wonderful if you like cats. Number 13. The Wolfen. Take a wild guess what the two elements of this hybrid are. Yeah, obviously this is a whale and a dolphin combination, but it's easily one of the rarest hybrid animals in the world, almost always seen in captivity. Although, where else could you keep this huge thing? The Wolfen is the end result of mating a female common bottlenose dolphin and a male false killer whale. As with most of our hybrid animals, these particular animals are very similar, living in the same habitat and climate, and often meeting in the wild. despite their noticeable size difference, they seem to have no problem mating, resulting in this huge hybrid. The Wholphin can reach up to 22 feet in length and over 600 pounds in weight, giving it the benefits of both its parents, apparently. In fact, just about everything to do with the Wholphin is a perfect mix of whale and dolphin, from its coloring to its teeth and even face shape. The Wholphin is not an easy animal to see in person. While some continue to insist that they saw one of these animals in the wild, it's highly unlikely. These are extremely rare animals. Your only shot at seeing one is in captivity, unless you make one in your bathtub, but that's probably more unlikely. Number 12, the beefalo. The name threw you a little off, right? Well, the beefalo is not a buffalo made up of cooked steaks, so there's one theory we can eliminate.
She missed her hill.
In fact, the beefalo is just what you'd expect, an American bison mixed with a domestic cattle. It's basic science, really. In what must be the continuing trait of humanity, the beefalo was actually invented entirely by accident in the 18th century, although nobody actually knows how. It seems that somebody just happened to discover this unusual mix of bison and cow and decided to run with it. By the 19th century, the beefalo was being purposefully crossbred for the purpose of beef production. In fact, according to the United States Department of Agriculture, the beefalo's meat is considered to be superior to that of regular cows, noting that it is much lower in fat, calories, and cholesterol. Farmers take note. Unlike many hybrids, the beefalo is not a 50-50 split, genetically speaking. In fact, it's predominantly cow, with only around 3/8 of its DNA belonging to its bison parent. But if its beef tastes good, I'm not sure anybody pays attention. Number 11, Coy Dog. These names are just getting weirder, right? The Coy Dog, as some of you may have already guessed, a hybrid between a dog and a coyote. Two very similar animals that don't necessarily belong together, genetically. While it might sound like the result of pure accident, the Coy Dog is actually a very intentional creation, having been bred by the Teotihuacan people to create a more resilient, loyal, and, frankly, temperamental protector. So, to put it another way, this dog, or dog-type animal, has been around for thousands of years, but it's not, as some foolishly believe, a domestic pet. While its dog half may be friendly, loyal, and kind, its coyote side is a fearsome and dangerous animal to be kept around, resulting in some reports of Coy Dog attacks on humans or other pets. The German Shepherd/Coyote mix is considered to be especially dangerous. You don't want to take that one to Best in Show. The Coy Dog is another example of taking two similar animals and combining them to create a whole new thing. But while this animal is more likely to rip a judge's throat out than be awarded Best in Show, it's still a pretty impressive animal in its own right. Number 10, Zubrin. While its name may not suggest it, the Zubrin is actually a hybrid of domestic cattle and the European bison. So, in essence, this is the European equivalent of the American buffalo. But none of that really explains the name, does it? The Zubrin name was not actually linked to anything specifically about the animal itself, but was the winning suggestion of a contest ran in a Polish weekly magazine in 1969. As for the animal itself, the Zubrin was first created in 1847 by Leopold Walicki, and it quickly became popular among scientists during World War I, when the effects of the war began having severe downturns for the cattle market. Scientists suggested that the Zubrin could be an alternative for domestic cattle, which is exactly what happened. Thanks to its ability to resist disease and survive more intense conditions, the Zubrin became hugely popular across Europe. The power of crossbreeding right there. The Zubrin are just as strong today as ever, with some weighing up to 1,200 kilograms. So while the name might be confusing and slightly odd, they're still a worthy alternative to domestic cattle. That name though, Le Beefalo, might be better. Number 9, Liger. Everybody knows the liger, right? It's the animal that explains itself. They're also probably the world's most famous mistake, although that's perhaps something that I think quite a lot of us can relate to. The liger is the result of a lion and tiger breeding, although most of the ligers that have been bred until now have been mistakes, which raises a lot of questions that we're not going to go near. Ligers are fascinating creatures to study, as their genetics are pure hybrid material. They grow at a rate of around 1 kilogram every second day. They can run up to 50 miles an hour. Its roar sounds like a mix between its parents. I could go on. But while they have many positive traits, the liger generally has a shorter lifespan than either of its parents, and is more likely to contract disease. Still, being a lion/tiger hybrid is undoubtedly a get-out-of-jail-free card for life in the jungle. Who's gonna mess with the kid who has 2 killer parents? The liger is a beautiful and fascinating animal, but it's also one of the most intimidating hybrids you'll find on Earth. I mean, what kind of animal weighs 165 kilograms at the age of 1? Come on! Number 8. Zoo. While America can have its beefalo and Europe can have its beefalo light, Tibet has decided to follow the trend of mixing cattle with other animals. But, as all countries do, it decided to put its own flair on the mix. They used a yak. While most Western countries have farmyard animals like cows and pigs and chickens, Tibet has a whole other kind of farm wildlife. Yaks, it seems, are probably the most common kind of farmyard wildlife you could hope to see, as well as the zoo. The zoo is a mix of yak and domestic cattle, and it's actually an economic miracle. Unlike many cattle, the zoo doesn't require the kind of attention that others do, making it pretty cheap to look after. And, as a benefit, it turns out to be a productive and robust animal in return. Not too bad then. At around 1,300 pounds and 5.5 feet in height, nobody can claim that the zoo is a light or small animal. But it's a pretty exciting hybrid. It seems that cattle hybrids work the same way as sourdough. Wherever it is, it's a product of that region. Can't wait for the San Francisco zoo. Number 7. Mullard. Ducks are already such unusual animals on their own that it feels pretty strange to imagine it as part of a hybrid. Well, imagine no more. Here we have one of the most interesting animals you'll ever see, the mullard. The mullard is the product of a toby, or domestic duck, mating with the domestic mallard. Generally, this is not an animal you'll see out there in nature, which isn't entirely surprising in the world of hybrid animals. The mullard is an animal bred for a specific purpose: meat and foie gras. While we're not going to delve into the questionable ethics of foie gras, duck meat is generally considered to be a popular delicacy all around the world, and apparently, so is mullard meat. However, these animals are sterile upon birth, which makes it somewhat tricky to keep the species going without the use of artificial insemination. What a job, inseminating ducks! The mullard is regularly bred for meat purposes, although it's highly likely that most people have never even seen one. Much like Frankenstein kept his monster in a castle, they keep this animal, on the water? Oh, leave me alone. I'm no duck expert. Number 6. Jeep. Yes, the Jeep is an all-new hybrid of gas-guzzling supercar with a groundbreaking electric engine that… never mind. Wrong Jeep. This Jeep is a hybrid of a goat and a sheep, which is fine, I guess. Can't drive it, though. The Jeep is one of the rarest animals on this earth, and all because of one unfortunate truth. They are impossible to breed naturally. In fact, most Jeeps are stillborn before birth, making them statistically unlikely to ever be born in the first place. But in the rare cases in which they are born, the animal can be a sheep, a goat, or a hybrid of both. While most hybrids tend to be a pretty clear mix of both parents, the Jeep seems to be a genetic gamble every single time. Due to the obvious difficulties in producing and delivering the Jeep, very few have ever been reported as being successfully bred. However, there are cases where it has happened, so we know that it's not totally impossible, just very impossible. Come to think of it, it's Mission Impossible: Goat Protocol. Number 5. Taigen. If the liger is the result of a female tiger and a male lion, then the taigen must be the opposite, right? Yes, and believe it or not, they're not at all like their genetic opposite, at least not in personality, while the liger is generally gentle and even-tempered, to a point anyway. The taigen is very much not. In fact, the taigen is pretty much what you'd expect from the offspring of two of the jungle's most legendary predators: aggressive, dangerous, and very violent. And perhaps surprisingly, the taigen experiences depression quite strongly. Due to the conflicting behavioral genes that come with its parents' DNA, the lion is social, the tiger is a loner. The taigen, like many teenagers, just doesn't know who it is. It wants to be with others, but also just wants to be alone. The taigen is a beautiful animal, but it's also an example of the dangers of hybrid animals. What happens when two animals with different behaviors are forced to mate? You get an animal that needs both, resulting in some severe depression. Number 4. Jaglion. Jaglion? Seriously? Alright. The jaglion is a hybrid of, do I even have to say it? It's the result of mating a male jaguar and a female lion, which is beyond rare. In fact, there have only been 2 reported specimens in history. That's more like uber rare.
Hi, Smoochie. Smoochie Mooch, I love you.
In 2006, Ontario's Bear Creek Wildlife Sanctuary celebrated the birth of 2 jaglions, named Jazara and Tsunami. However, like most hybrids, these births were the result of an unplanned, date night between a jaguar and a lioness that had been hand-raised together. Both jaglions look utterly different from the other, with Jazara inheriting her father's melanism gene and Tsunami inheriting his mother's spotted genes. This is a pretty significant change from how most hybrids work, which tend to combine the 2 genes in the child's DNA. While it's most likely that there have been other jaglions born throughout history, only 2 have been reported in the whole of the 20th century, making this possibly the rarest of all the hybrids. Or maybe I'm just overhyping it. Who knows, really? Number 3. Polar bear. It seems impossible to imagine that the polar bear and the grizzly bear could even produce a child. And yet, we find ourselves on the peak of what is impossible once again. The growler bear is a rare hybrid that has been reported both in captivity and in the wild. While the existence of the growler bear had always been suggested, it wasn't until 2006 that it was confirmed. After one of these unique animals had been shot by a hunter in the Canadian Arctic, a DNA test was underway. It quickly verified that this was a legitimate hybrid. Polar bears and grizzlies can indeed breed. Since that discovery, 8 hybrids have been confirmed, with all of them descending from the very same female polar bear. That last fact makes it hard to tell if this is a sign of the species barriers crumbling or if this female polar bear just had a type. Either way, good for her. The growler bear is one of the few animal hybrids that does not require captivity or artificial insemination. It seems like this is just something that will happen out in nature. Well, for one polar bear at least. Number 2, the Kama. Camels, llamas, what's the difference? Well, they're 2 different animals, so there's quite a lot of difference, but they share enough genetics that a hybrid is very, very possible. Introducing the Kama, the result of breeding a male camel and a female llama. The Kama was first developed in 1997.
South America, llama came to England. England came to Dubai.
To produce an animal capable of producing more wool than the llama, while also having the size and strength of a camel and a good cooperative temperament. Science, man! How much do you want from a genetically edited animal? By 1998, the first Kama had been born, but he was considered to be a disappointment, given his terrible and uncooperative behavior. Still, the scientists pushed on with their plans, producing 5 Kamas by 2008. Thankfully for those that poured their money into this playing God-type exercise, most of the Kamas turned out to achieve the wool production they were hoping for. Today, the Kama is still being used for wool production in Dubai and is considered a fully domesticated animal. Another success story for the scientists playing God then. Number 1, Zorse. Zonkies are cute and all, but the Zorse is straight up cool. Thesaurus is, of course, the hybrid offspring of a male zebra and a female horse, and I dare anybody to say they're not incredibly beautiful animals. Like the zonkey, Thesaurus has clear genetic traits of both its parents, the strong muscular body of its horse mother and the striped texture of its zebra father. But thanks to its zebra DNA, Thesaurus is pretty strong and almost entirely immune to the kinds of diseases that usually would afflict ordinary horses. However, like most hybrids, Thesaurus is sterile, which means every single one is a genetic rarity. While it's possible for some hybrid animals to be created in the wild, this impressive animal is one of the few that cannot be created without some kind of human intervention.
Girl. That was the best one yet.
Thesaurus is a beautiful animal and one of the most popular hybrid animals in the world. Often, you'll find them as riding animals, or just in one of those questionable, world's weirdest animals type circuses. Please don't go to one of those. Have you ever seen any of these animals in person? Let us know in the comments. Also, check out our other cool stuff showing up on screen right now. See you next time.